And hello, my name is Martin, and today what we're going to be talking about is using a nav mesh in a small area, in a small arena. If we're going to be doing, let's say, outside environments where you have a vast environment and the enemies could there be many and they could be in a couple of different places, you don't want to use this technique. So this technique would be used if the area is confined, let's say, like your level takes place inside of the building and that building has only so many levels and so much space and it's limited, so it's not the expanse of the entire landscape, it's just this one area. If you're setting up something like that, the nav mesh that we're gonna show you today is going to work because it's going to be set up for small areas, and we're going to show you how you can do multiple levels within that small area and then assign certain things or certain areas to certain ammunition or to certain actors or pawns, so then that way they only move within a small defined area. So what I want you to see here is I've created these white. First of all, I have a navigational mesh which is tall enough to be able to come inside the whole thing. So again, I went into navigation or nav mesh volume. You grab one, you drop it on the floor, you expand it wide enough to be able to fit the area that you're going to use for testing. And then I made it tall enough so then that way it not only would fill the bottom area, but all of the staircases and anything that is facing up would be something where the enemies could then walk on. Okay. I've set up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enemies, and I've set up the first person player down here just inside of this tube. So they're just outside the navigational mesh area. So let me go ahead and push play and show you what's going to happen with these guys right here. So let's push play. Okay, now it looks like, there we go. So the second that I walk into the area, you'll see they attack me, and now, well, we should be having them respawn, and I'll explain here in a minute why they're not, but we're going to do something cool with the respawning. We're going to make it random within a certain area. Okay, so basically those things are going to follow you the second you walk into the green area or the navigational mesh area. And we've seen that before. We saw that when we set these up. Now, how do we make it to where we can kind of reduce the area that these things are able to navigate to just, let's say, this white plane, right? So one way that you can do this is by using what's called a nav modifier volume. So let's grab one of these and put it out on the floor. And basically, this adds a area that is not included within the nav area. So you can basically see that now this is basically like a subtractive to a geometry, right? It's taking away area that that was once a positive area for the navigational mesh. So what we could do here is we could, since this is something like solid sides, we could maybe set this one up here. Let's make that a little bit wider. And then let's go really long this way. Okay, now I don't want it affecting any of this, so let me go ahead and back that back down a little bit. And then let's move it this way. Again, I'll make it just a little bit bigger. Now let's move it this way. Okay, so now we have restricted the forward movement. So if I push play, I can walk into this area that is now no longer green because it has been being modified, and my guys are still coming towards me. Okay, let's try that again. You know what I think actually might be happening? The top of this building might be, and my character is walking underneath that. I don't know if that makes sense, but let's try that and see if... Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We actually have to make this thing the size of the other one, because what was happening is it was only covering the feet. So my character was technically still walking into it, even though we couldn't see the green on the floor anymore. The volume that, like with the area where my chest and the gun and the hands are, that was still in the navigational mesh, because all we had gotten rid of was just the little pieces down at the bottom. So you do need to watch out for that. So let's go ahead and push play now, and that should actually fix this. Okay, so you see now that they're not moving towards me. So that's actually a good thing that happened. So now I can walk anywhere in that area that doesn't have the green, and it's sort of paying homage to, now the second I walk into an area that should be green, boom, they're going to start moving. I walk out, they stop, walk in, they move out, and whatnot. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually carve out the areas that we want. So inside of the nav meshes that are left, let's go ahead and create a couple more nav modifying volumes and cut out the sides and really restrict their movement. Okay, so at this point I've added enough of the navigational modifiers to create the areas that I don't want them to move in. The only problem is that I've done the same thing again. I didn't make these things tall enough. So if my character was to walk into this area, the area that they would be holding their guns, or areas that the would still be triggering this volume, the nav mesh volume. So let's make these a little bit taller. Okay, so that should blow up, and I forgot the one back here. Okay, so let's see what this does. So I walk out into the environment, nothing happens. I walk into the white square, they start coming towards me. I walk out of that white square, I go into the other nav mesh area. Now take a look at that. They can't actually cross over the line. So basically, even though I'm in an area that is going to cause them to move, they unfortunately can't get to me because of the because they're not actually connected in the area that I'm at. So I could keep walking into, let's say, this third area over here, and we're going to see that they're going to continue to keep moving based on where we are. Right? So if I move this way, you'll see that it's still moving. Okay? So this is one way that you can create a separation inside of a smaller navigational mesh. Okay? By using navigational modifier volumes. All right, now the other thing that we can do is that right now, as we shoot these and we make them explode, the unfortunate thing that's happening is that they are respawning, but they're respawning back to the locations that we had back here. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to get these things to respawn, not only respawn, but respawn inside just area 1. So how do we do this? we need to set up a range, and not only area 1, but randomly within inside area 1. So let's grab the first one of these, and we're going to move it into the far corner and to the back. And again, we're going to do the same thing that we did last time. We're going to look at its location settings and figure out, let's say its x is negative 5486. So now I'm going to create a new homing missile. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say duplicate. And we're going to call this one, it's going to auto name itself with a 2 on the end of it. And so we can double click into the settings or the blueprint for that. And down here where we had the information for the respawning, the beautiful thing is we've already got these things broken up. So all we have to do is click out of this and type in range. And what we're looking for is random float in range. And what this is going to do is going to give us 2 values, a minimum and a maximum. And every time this event takes place, it's going to randomly pick a location somewhere between the minimum and the maximum. So let's do this also for the y-axis, because we want this to happen in a left to right fashion because we don't have any height yet. We're not going to be messing around with the z-axis yet. So now that we have this, let's plug in another one here. Random float in range, and we have both now one for the x and for the y. And let's figure out what the one value would be. So the first value for the x is going to be negative 5468. Oops. So let's go back in here. Negative 5468. And let's look at what the maximum would be for that. If I grab it by the x value, only the x should change. The very front-ish part of that box would be negative 1001. So let's go back here. And the maximum value would be negative, let's say 1001. Okay, so now we have the x value. So now let's do the same thing for the y. So the y value, one of them is going to be 2273. Whoops. So this is going to be 2273. And let's move it all the way to the other side of the box over here. And this is a value of 332. Okay, so the max value would be 332. Okay, so now we have a range for the x value and a range for the y value, and we have attached that to the respawning of this. And we've left it to where it should always respawn on the floor level. It's not going to randomly respawn in the air, although that would be cool. You could have things like randomly dropping out of the air. So let's hit compile and save. And now let's go and see what happens with this respawn. Oh, the other thing I also want to see is I want to see the duration. You know, I want these things to respawn rather quickly. So let's increase that. Compile and save. And let's push play. Okay. Oh, also, I just realized this. The ones that were out here already are not the new one that I just made. At least not the ones that had the new respawning settings. So I actually have to put those out on the floor. Alright, so let's test this. Okay, that responded randomly. They're in different places. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so what happened there was the respawned were the older homing missiles and not the newer ones that I made that were supposed to be working only in this one area. So we now need to switch the spawning class from the older H missiles to the newer homing missiles. So let's hit compile now and save. And let's push play. And now instead of only getting one round of these, we should get every 3 seconds new rounds. Okay, I'm going to slow down so we can see that these things are randomly respawning. Remember, it's about every 3 seconds, so that looks pretty random. Okay, fantastic. So we have that now working, and it's only happening in this one area. So now we've done a couple of things. We have set up a larger, I say a larger, it's still a small navigational mesh area for, let's say, a confined level. We have used nav modifier volumes to confine that level to a certain area. We have seen that if they are confined to that area, they cannot jump over into another area, even though the nav mesh is working over there. And we have used coordinates from the map itself to respawn this particular enemy in this location for in just the one box instead of spawning in the other box. Now, obviously, if you wanted to create one that spawned in this box, you would have to make another, you'd have to come here, duplicate, give this one a unique name, find what the dimensions of the box are, put that into the range float, and once you knew what those were, then drop these in that area. Make sure that they are visible to the nav mesh, right? Make sure that they're not above or below the navigational mesh, that they are actually inside of it. And once that's there, these will now only respawn in this area. These will only respawn in this area. And if you were to get, let's say, to an area like this that is outside of the navigational mesh area, this could be, let's say, like a safe zone where the enemies can't get to you and they're not looking for you anymore. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I'm going to stop it there. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this third area, and we're going to look at altitude as for respawning, and then also altitude for, we don't want all the enemies from all the different levels to start attacking us the second we get down on this floor. We want them to wait until we actually get into each one of these levels. So we'll show you how to do that in the next tutorial. Okay? Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.